At this time, I call this meeting to order. And I thank each of you for coming out this afternoon, and we did get a little bit of sleep. Okay, Mr. Manager, I turn it over to you, sir.
All right, thank you all for coming. Today is our first budget retreat for the year. Last month, we did a strategic retreat to kind of get your idea of priorities and overarching vision for the county. We're going to focus on, again, organizational efficiency and effectiveness, education, and we went down a little bit more in, I'm putting on the last two focus areas. But we identified those last time, and we're going to focus on making our budget expenditures align with your strategic focus areas. Today, we're going to talk about some more brass tacks, some of the things that are already been discussed, and then how we should move, how should you direct us to move forward. The first big thing for next year in regards to our budget is the DSS capital plan. You have in your packet, or have received in your packet, a PowerPoint presentation.
If you don't have it, I do have copies.
Oh, here's something right here.
I didn't bring it, but I remember it.
I didn't bring it either.
I remember it, but I didn't bring it. Somebody needs one.
That's the 30-year.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I was,
Thank you. And you know, we like when we was in school, you have to bring your class, your book to class.
Thank you.
You have one of these things.
Do you need a copy, Amber? Here's an extra, baby. You're welcome.
So we'll go through, let's go through this packet so we'll be on the same page. Last week we sent this out so that you'll kind of get a recap of what we've done for the last year. Last March 5th, the board gave me a direction to go out there and look at and examine other options besides building a DSS building, because we had saw at that point that maybe we didn't have the finances to take care of a $6.8 million building at that time. Given that the odds of borrowing those dollars were going to be few because we didn't have our audits completed, and then using fund balance wasn't going to be an option for that either, because it would take us significantly low in our fund balance. So the alternative was to seek out a lease opportunity. So you see on that first page the project recap over the last year, what we've done in regards to getting this plan together. Also on the front page, you're going to see a 15-year cost summary. This is a summary page of what we've done. Throughout the year, we, myself, Mr. Kerry Garner, Finance Officer, Ms. Lula Jackson, DSS Director, and Leon Braley, our Lead North Carolina Fellow, we did a lot of brainstorming, we did a lot of research, and we put out an RFP in December to have lease space developed for our needs based off the Mosley work that was done the prior year or two. So we're going to be able to get our plan. Our intention was to get all the plans that were in that Mosley building in whatever we were going to get from this lease arrangement. So we didn't want to leave anything to chance. If it was going to be in the Mosley building, we wanted it to be in the lease building as well. So that was part of our thinking. The RFP goes out in December, comes back in February. There are two bids. One, a group for, it's located on Plank Road Realty, not Plank Road Realty, Plank Road Shopping Center on 74. It's where currently the Vita and the Atrium. Yep, it used to be I think old Winn-Dixie.
dialysis was there.
Dialysis was there. That was a bid that came in. They're properly managed by a group in Charlotte, and then also have groups related to that in New York City. So kind of pretty far removed from who we are here in Nancy County. The next bid, and that's known as the New York option. You'll see that option says New York. They gave us options that dealt with a 21,000 square foot building, because currently they have two occupants. They have That building is broken down into three spaces. One, they were willing to work with us on for 21,000 square feet. Then there was another one for about another 9,000 square feet, another one for 6,000 square feet or so. Each one of those other two have occupants. And so
9, 6, and 21.
there you go. They're roughly, don't hold me to those numbers. But what it was gonna be was a rollout phase approach over 3 years essentially. Wait until those leases expired and have us move in and phase in the approach. We didn't think that was a good idea because what was promised to DSS was a 31,000 or so square foot building. And we knew that all at one time, not something that's phased in over time. Also, you gotta deal with the idea of working with our clients to make sure they have the easiest and most convenient services as possible, and that wouldn't have helped us. Next option, was why the CF Smith Group, and you get on that front page, you'll see it. They are a local, semi-local area of a company from Richmond County. Rockingham is where they're based. They have worked up and down the East Coast of North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, and 22 other states in the United States. They do exactly what we're requesting, designing space and then renting them back out to them. Some places that you might see in their work, we have a portfolio of their work and I'll pass it around. This represents some of the quality work that they've done over time.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, sir.
We'll keep moving around.
All right, will do. So we're starting.
Yep. They've worked with companies such as Lowe's Hardware. They've worked with companies as, on the nonprofit side, the UNC Healthcare System in North Carolina, Raleigh, Chapel Hill, Durham area. They work with them as well. Taking old space, repurposing it for their needs. They've done this and made a business model out of this across the state, across the nation. And they saw opportunity here in Anson County to do the same thing for us, to design a building that fits the specs and then rent it out to us.
They did Richmond Plaza over.
Yeah.
They own Richmond Plaza,
They run
but
it.
they also renovated it with their own construction people.
I know who this is.
So, in this regard, they came with a pretty good offer for us. What they said that they would take and have reached out to the Harvest Ministries, that building right there behind Pizza Hut near McDonald's, and they own that building, have owned that building for quite some time, and have entered into an agreement with Harvest Ministries, a conversation with them, discussing that they will relocate the ministry to another location. If they had the opportunity to occupy that, buy it for us, if we wanted to enter an agreement with them, what they would do is find a place for Harvest Ministries, redesign that space for us, and then rent it out to us for the next 15 years. Again, it would fit all our specs based off the Mosley, redefined for us. They would even expand the footprint. The current building right now is 24,000 square feet. They're willing to add to that building 7,800 square feet of new construction. What will happen with that is that they're gonna take that entire lot that you see and redo it. As that building is currently constituted, it will not be that building in a year. They would take it's called the skin. What you currently see, all that's coming off. What would be left would be a concrete pad and steel girders, and they would construct a building that fits our needs, and then we rent it from them for the next 15 years. And as you can see, on our 15-year cost summary, there are 3 bars on that bar graph on the very front page. The one in the first one is New York option, kind of goldish color. Again, $4 million. They are situated in a different location, not local, and honestly, they didn't fit the bid proposal. The bid proposal has some other requirements in it that they did not submit. Next, we have CS Smith. Over a 15-year period, the cost to the county would be $3.8 million. Again, that takes into account what the state would give us in reimbursement. Every month, we would send to the state a reimbursement figure, and they would give us they would take 55% of that, leaving us responsible for 45% of the monthly rent. And that's, as long as they keep doing the same reimbursement, that's in perpetuity. So we have opportunity to make pay 45% monthly on the rent of this building for the next 15 years. If we were to build, short estimates, we're looking at $6.8 million over 15 years to take care of that building if we were to build it. The one thing beyond moving forward, we keep talking about this, but the one thing that's very critical, I think, is that location is very prominent. And one of the things that we discussed when I first got here was that if Anson County is going to start building, it wants to look like it's doing something. Eyes on the prize. Keep it in a prominent location. And that is one of the most prominent locations in this county. But in moving forward, that's a summary of this page. On the next 2 pages, we discuss them in a little bit more detail. You have your New York option. Again, we're looking at it. Some of the things we evaluated this on price. Obviously, I focus a little bit on price right now. Cost, parking, location, design consistency, security, and amenities. And we totaled it up to be 100 points. And when we rated them up, it looked like the New York option came in at 61 points out of 100. As you can see, some of the things I'll point
The
out.
point total, lower better or higher better?
Higher is better.
Higher
A
is
maximum
better.
amount is 100 points. Maximum amount is 100 points. And what we saw with some points of notice, parking, the New York option, no new parking, no lighted parking, safety issues were concerned, design consistency, there was no playground that was clearly defined, lack of natural light. It was highly visible though, on location wise, it was highly visible. That was a consideration of ours again. Amenities, limited to no green space. That's not something we want. If we want to have this be a very nice, well-maintained facility, we want to have some green space around, something that looks not just like a building in a parking lot. So those are some of the highlights or so, some things that we pointed out for the New York option. On the next page, the C.F. Smith option, the one with the local group. Parking, 130 parking spots, more than we requested. They're going to pave that whole parking area and make it such that it's maintained by them, it's upkept by them the entire time. Superior lighting and green space. Location, highly visible. Design consistency. They went and they're going to design something with 15 skylights, have exterior windows, have an appealing facade on the outside, ADA compliant, and everything that we requested from the Mosley group is in the building. Everything. So they also have security access, swipe in, swipe out, security checkpoints, and they're adding again on space, 7,800 square feet of new construction space for us. So out of 100 points, we gave them 79.5. So those were the 2 companies that requested, that submitted an RFP, answered our RFP, and we came up with C.F. Smith as being the best option of the 2. And because we were leaning toward a lease option versus building, we thought that would be what our group over the last year has worked on, and that's our recommendation moving forward from here, is the C.F. Smith option for housing the DSS facility. So, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I went through that pretty quickly, but I know your time is valuable.
Any questions?
What is the cost to the county, not deducting the 55%? What is the total cost for the C.F. Smith option?
Monthly?
Monthly, yeah.
Monthly requirement,
And the reimbursement on that.
That's 55%.
Yeah, we've got it right here.
While Carrie's searching for that, what is the total cost, for the building?
So the C.F. Smith lease before reimbursement is $532,800 a year. It starts at that, and then it has, is it a 1%? Has 1% escalator after that, and that's before reimbursement.
So we pay about $215, I just threw that figure out.
$239,760
$239.
after reimbursement.
That's per year.
Per year.
Per year.
Per year.
How much over the 15 year would that be?
Over 15 years.
That's just $3.8 million.
Yeah, that's the number. It's
$3.8 million for 15 years.
It's on the first page.
And after those 15 years, we would own, zero, we would just, our amount of lease would, have to be renegotiated.
We would have to renegotiate conditions. We chose to stay with that building, yes.
At that rate, I'd rather go with the option that Walt had at the high school. I mean, because like I said, in the 15 years, we'll have to do something else or stay there. But we had our own building.
This is a better option for us in the short term. 15 years, we can discuss that, but we don't have to maintain this building. This building, we don't have to put any.
But we gonna have to stay there 15 years?
Yeah, we'll have to stay there 15 years. The idea behind ownership is that there comes a lot of other liability pieces that we'll be responsible for. If we need a new roof in this building, they'll put a new roof on it.
Got to do it.
If we need new parking spaces, they put new parking spaces out there for us.
Yeah.
If we need a door added, if we need, new doors or skylights or anything like that, they'll take care of that for us.
No, and then the other thing to think of is if you just look at it 15 years to 15 years, when we extrapolate this out for 30, then really what we did is continue the same lease payment with the escalators.
Yeah.
But that would only be applicable if we moved into another new building. Because the build out to modify this space to what we're asking from the Mosley design is captured and spread over those first 15 years. So we didn't ask for a year 16 lease payment to see what the drop off would be, but to make that comparable to a 30-year build or buy option, you would need to know that.
Correct. So what we, in this lease right now, we have the build, again, they're constructing the building and we're paying it off over 15 years. With the state giving us 45% every month on that reimbursement. After that 15 years, that building is paid off essentially, and we can continue to rent it at a much more reduced rate because the upfit is taken care of. We've already paid back on all the upfit, all the 7,800 new square feet, that's already taken care of. So 16 through 30, actually would be a cheaper rent month to month than what we do for the first 15 years. So, but we were unable to get all that information from C.S. Smith. But what you have right now, the 30-year cost summary, this one piece that's hanging out right here, if we kept moving forward and not made that adjustment, in 30 years, Anson County, we have paid $1 million more than building it ourselves. $1 million more over 30 years for building it ourselves, or we can have someone else maintain it, keep it up for us, have a new facility, and be in a permanent location. Not to mention, these people are local and they have experience redeveloping spaces like this. And with what's happened recently with Walmart, it might not be a bad thing to have relationships with people who can help redevelop spaces like this. This would be an opportunity for them to showcase to Anson and for Anson to showcase to other people that we're willing for business and that we're willing to enter into partnerships with people who will do good work for us. So,
In other words, we'll have proof that our payments will be lower after 15 years. That'll be right.
we can do that, yes, sir.
How secure is the 55% in the state?
It's
Looking at the
it's a
future.
variable number, so we've used 55%. 55, whatever the reimbursement rate is, it's gonna be applicable to whichever option we go to. So if we do a lease,
Yeah,
or if
but
we
the
do a
question
build or
is,
buy.
how secure do you think it, nobody can say for sure.
No,
That's the truth,
But how
but
secure
again,
do you believe this will be for the future?
if you build, buy, or lease, you're looking at the same revenue stream. It only applies on the lease side, it applies to everything. On the build or buy, it only applies to whatever that 55, if that 55% is the exact right number, it only applies to the interest. So in this case, it only applies for the first 15 years of interest, and it applies to the amortization of the building over 45 years. So whatever the percentage is, the methodology to get to it, the budget restraints or consistency, they're the same no matter what path Edson County goes on. That funding is the same. The stability of it is the same. It's just, what does it apply to? That's the reason that we did this whole exercise, is to bring an option to the board so that you could look at what the bottom line number is. But again, all we have to go on now, and I will admit, we are going off of the DHHS building manual. Now, I will be the first to admit, it's 2008, but this is the current. This is how it works. So based off of that, there is an opportunity for what's called a 3P, a public-private partnership, which is what we're putting out here with the two different lease to suit options, or with just the straight build buy option which is the first thing we were looking at. One other notable thing is that on either of the lease to suit, those are properties that are still on the tax books as they are now, that would be greatly improved. So there's tax revenue off of that would be generated. Now again, part of it is reimbursable, part of it would not be. But the part that's not reimbursable is basically like taking $1 out of one side of our pants and putting it in the other. The good side is that the value of the building is up, so that we are getting reimbursement on some of that tax value.
And anything the building would need, they would have to pay for it.
Yes, sir. Now again, I think janitorial might be our
Janitorial,
responsibility, paper goods, things of that nature, but water fountain maintenance, carpet, doors, lights,
Roof and everything.
roof, HVAC, plumbing, electrical. The good thing about both of these options is that, both of the lease build options, is that they're their buildings. And what I mean by that is, we're not, we could obviously go try to find a building to lease, and we could try to manipulate it to make the design. But when we cut a channel of flooring out for plumbing or electrical or whatever, and we run into a problem, it's on us. And these options, both of these buildings are controlled by the people that have made the proposals.
Mr. Gatewood, take a part in this discussion.
Oh, I am taking the part by listening carefully to what I'm hearing. Well, first of all, either way, DSS gets an upgrade. Whether we lease, going to the CF Smith option, or whether we build, and they need that upgrade in the worst way. My only concern is relative to county taxpayers. We all know that if we lease this building, we're going to be in that building for 30, 40, 50 years or more, based on our history. And I'd like to see an analysis based on input from CF Smith that says what the lease payments will be year 15 through 30. I think they would be willing to assist us with that so that we can make a sound strategic decision for the long run. I'm not prepared to go one way or the other right now. I like both options, but I would like to see those numbers.
Yeah, I'm leaning a little towards Smith.
What if 15 years, everybody around the table will be 80 years old?
But hopefully
I'm here in 15 years, I'll help pay the taxes.
Could we ask CF Smith
Sure.
for that information?
Yes, sir. And just for clarification, it'll be year 16
Yeah,
to
but-
30, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
Sure.
So one thing too, now again, we mentioned, Liam, you had this in the RFP about the buyout. So one thing we mentioned is, we are operating off of the most current building handbook for DHHS from 2008. Okay, so our reimbursement is based, and these models are based off of that. Our recommendation is based off of that. Should this change and everything's treated equally, then we probably want to own. Okay, if the reimbursement's all the same, this analysis gets a lot closer. So included in these proposal, on both the proposals, is a buyout option should these terms, our reimbursement, our underlying reimbursement change.
Oh, great, I
where
like
where they're
that.
treated equally. So like, for instance, right now, and you guys know that we have a grant to build a new AXE building. But the AXE model right now is 90-10, whether you build, buy, or lease. Fortunately, we lease somewhere and it's not too expensive, so we get 90% reimbursement. That $1,880 that we're leasing for, if we were making payments with that money, we'd still get 90% of it back. However, obviously getting a grant from them to build a building outright is much better. But again, we don't understand it because it's a mixture of federal and state dollars in DOT, just like DHHS. But DHHS, I don't know if it's at the North Carolina level or what, where the manual was developed was at the North Carolina level. They have an aversion to you building or buying. So anyway, that's kind of behind all of this.
One question, that act building you just mentioned, that grant, do we have to pay 10% of what the cost of the building, or they have to pay the grant the whole number?
That actually, the building grant is a 20% match, but it's 20% of the project.
I
Then we
noticed
won't have
one,
any,
excuse me,
I'm sorry, then we won't have any ongoing lease payments, obviously, and no reimbursement for that part. The operations of the building would still be supported.
10%.
Yes, 10% on our part.
Okay, two questions. First, the 20.5 points that they didn't get, what was that on?
Oh, for C.S. Smith?
Yeah, what was that?
We just being extra critical. Let's see. Price, that was the big piece, because the maximum value you could have gotten on cost was 50 points. They received a 37.5, and we just thought comparatively that was still, it wasn't a perfect.
Renewable price, but okay.
That's a big chunk.
Okay,
And then everything else was kind of on the margins.
okay.
So like, for instance, the build option, because it was designed for us, the design consistency, they had to get a 10 because they designed it. The Mosley, the build had to get a 10. And so then we look at how close the other two options were to what we were trying to achieve. I think one thing that hurt the New York is that no matter what, it was going to have to be phased. And so,
And I don't like the way they say it. Just being honest, I do not. My daughter put that atrium over there. My daughter the one designed it, where the building was there, and did the inside. But she always talked about the parking. She said, now Mama, we're gonna put it there. See, we don't think about other things that architects and designers do. She was talking about the parking there. And it is sometimes hard to get in and out of there, especially certain times of the year or whatever. I do not like that. I don't like that phase-in part. I'm like Dr. Sims. I'm leading in moves with this. I know this. Did you talk to Mr. Smith or the son-in-law? Who will we be talking
the
to?
grandson, his
The
grandson actually
yeah.
is running the company now.
Yeah, that's who I know. Beautiful family. When you go up number 1, how did I meet them? Years and years ago. They lived that house. They donated that house. Now it's a home for special needs kids.
Real safe,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I know what you're talking
Their
about.
dad died. They donated that house. He has always, that daddy
Actually, it's the grandfather that you're talking about, Mr. Smith.
Yeah,
And then the
that's who I
son-in-law
know.
is Robinette, and then
Yes, Uh-huh, I
The
know
grandson is
Robinette.
Neil Robinette that's actually running the
Yeah,
company now.
Yeah, so
They
that's
just-
who you're talking to, right?
Yes, ma'am, they just renamed the company, it's always been Tri-City, but they renamed the company back in January after the grandfather.
Okay, okay,
That's why it's referred to as C.F. Smith, it's actually Claude Felton Smith.
okay. Mm-hmm. Dynamic, they good people, they are really good people.
We picked up on the parking, if you look on, is it page 2 of that handout? You'll see that the parking on that New York option, was hampered dramatically because to get private parking, you have to come through, say, the Papa Joe's area to get to the light to be able to get out. Where this one, basically the entrance road between the two restaurants from there back is ours. There's a possibility of looking at a Highway 52, south,
Yeah.
Exit.
Okay,
for-
come
for-
in and go out.
Come in on 74 through the light, and then possibly exiting on 52 south, and that's not in these proposals.
Yeah.
But that is something that we threw around.
They own the property, so if, they own, how many acres of that lot?
13. It's like 17 acres, it's not all usable, but,
But if we were to cut the bush and the trees and everything, you could really see it.
You can really see it. We believe
Really.
there might be a crevasse back down there that might make it difficult. However, we look at this as, again, it's multi-tiered. It's not just getting DSS a building, which this is where it started off as. But that location can be an anchor for a lot of growth and development for Anson County. Outside, now that they've cleared that whole space, that U-Haul place is gone, and now you got all that open land
Yes.
that could be developed, because now we have an anchor there that's gonna have 50 employees, plus the number of clients, plus when you see people doing things and activities, those 34,000 cars that come down here every summer, may want to pull over, go to McDonald's, take a little walk around the area, and there may be other things, opportunities there. I think this option provides more than just our short-term need. Starts getting us looking long-term down the road.
Okay, if you all will get the information that Mr. Gable wants to get, the 30 to.
The 16 to 30.
16 to 30 years, and get back with us, but I don't think we're ready to make a decision on that.
Okay.
Get good information, then we'll make a decision.
And don't get me wrong, what you've done is excellent, no question about it. It's an excellent location, beautiful site, and I agree with you, it has expandable options available. But I just want to make sure that we look at the costs carefully on a longer term basis than 15 years.
Okay, employee benefit.
This is where I turn it over to you all. This is your, we give a little, this time you give a little.
Mr. Gable, really, you start off to my left, we'll come around.
I don't know why you couldn't start over there with Jarvis.
So you be back.
Jarvis the chair, that's the co-chair, we're gonna
Okay.
start with Mr. Woodruff.
I would support that, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, all right, let's see, employee benefits, I'm thinking, which we've talked about this in the past, I think would be good to try to do another 5% COLA this year, well, next year, actually. And, I think the, health insurance, we're still paying for that, so, that needs to continue. I'm not sure about the cost, so I know that type of thing is continually going up. Somewhere along the line, it may get out of reach.
We've actually been in very good shape we are in the 3rd calendar year, but since we went to the state health plan, our rate in year 1 went from $746 a month to $479.
Very good.
So we finished out 17 and $479, and it's basically went up $20 a month. So our 2020 rate is $539. So joining the state health plan has helped us really control costs, because we're in the same plan as all the state employees, and
Okay.
the governor, or the state treasurer, and the budget office. When they have to come up with a number, it's affecting them too.
And there's another advantage, we're not switching from company to company
Exactly.
and going through that rigorous process every year.
That is absolutely true.
Okay, and definitely continuation of the EAP program that's just recently put in place. I think that's very beneficial to employees. And I'm not sure if I'm on track with this or not, but what kind of bereavement policy do we have in place for county employees?
Currently, bereavement is categorized underneath sick time. Sick time. So if family members are deaf or ill, you take sick time for bereavement. That's how it's currently in our personnel policy.
How many days?
I think you need to stay there too.
It's on until you run out of your sick time.
Okay.
Yeah. It's built as your sick time. Sick time, we allow bereavement to be part of sick. So.
Okay, so just say, for example, if you're a long-term employee, you got enough sick time, that's not an issue. But what about the young lady who just came aboard? What happens to employees in those situations?
It will be on the leave without pay.
Leave without pay. Is that would definitely be a burden to some people. This is just something, I don't say we got to do anything about it right now, but I think it probably is something that needs to be thought about. And is there any type of, I guess, savings plan in place for county employees? 401k or something like that?
We do have 401k.
County 401k, okay. All right. Mr. Sykes?
I'm just listening, y'all go ahead.
Well, one of the few times I don't need to talk, I'm good with what Mr. Woodland said.
Yeah, I totally agree. I 100% with 5%. I think that'll get us some of our departments up with other surrounding counties. And I think right now, some of the departments, the sheriff and others, that they have less turnover now. And we are getting officers from other departments today. So we on the right track. So I would say we can give at least this year. We don't want to get next year, but hey, if we can give this year 5%, you know, and I know we won't continue to be able to do that, but since we already done it 3 years in a row, let's try to do it another year. If you can find it in the budget. I know you're scared. Sometimes I have to pull a rabbit out the hat. This is one time I'm asking you to get it way down.
Good way to put it.
And I agree with Mr. Commissioner Whitburn on all of it. And it's definitely.
Okay, I know whenever you pull on your beard, that means. Whenever he do that, he's not agreeing with what we are saying. I've noticed that. So don't start pulling on that beard when I talk now. I'm playing with it. Look at, I do the insurance. I like that. I like the 5%. We got to be competitive, and also let our employees know that we appreciate them. The sick leave about giving it. I love you. You ain't got enough to pull on. Listen to this. But listen to this is working with the government. We had sick leave and annual leave. People abuse leave sometimes. I'm not saying they do, but this is what happens with sick leave, especially in a small rural county. If you do not put stipulations to it, we have people, grandparents that has raised their grandkids, and something happened, and that child died, or whatever, then they want to, but that's not their child. But they feel like that's my child. Yeah, I have people that call me mama all the time, or whatever like that. Where do we stop it at? Will it be for just the husband, the wife, and the children? Do we go grandparents, or she raised me that, and then you get into a real, yeah, that's the thing about it.
One thing I found out that we learned over the years, because we had, for our bereavement policy, we had those stipulations in place. Spouse, child, brother, sister, mother, father. grandparents. And what we did, what we found out, because like you said, those situations exist. You know, I was raised by somebody other than my parents, so quite naturally, if they pass away, I would like time off to do whatever I got to do. And what we found out was it wasn't enough of an issue to contest. In other words, if somebody said that was it, and most of the time, people were like in a small town, small county like Anson, just about everybody knew that somebody was not raised by a parent. So we didn't lose enough time to make an issue out of it. So if somebody said, yeah, you know, I need bereavement because this is not my birth parent, but the person that raised me, we let them go. Of course, our bereavement was structured so that you didn't automatically get a set number of days off. It may fall so you only got 1 day off, because one day of that bereavement had to be the day of the funeral.
Our beginning at the day of the funeral and the day after.
Now,
3 days all you got, but it began with the day of the funeral and the day after the funeral. You couldn't, if your mother died on Saturday, that began the day of the funeral.
Day of the funeral.
That's the day of the funeral.
And you got people keep on.
No, that's the day of the funeral. They be, but they can stay 1 day after the funeral.
Yeah, I mean, basically that's what we did. The stipulation was 1 day had to be the day of the funeral. So if the funeral was on Wednesday, yeah, an individual could get 3 days. But if the funeral was on Sunday, they just got 1 day, and that was Monday.
That's right.
So I mean that's how you control that type of thing.
On Sunday. For real. No, you can't do it.
But if you like, like Miss Commissioner Stedman said, a lot of people call her Mama B. And a lot of county employees call her Mama B. So if she died, we would have to have a national.
Now you trying to bury me. Lord called me Blue Blast. Now you trying to bury me.
No, we
going my pocketbook.
And back to my point, that would be one occurrence. That'd be a hard hit that time. None of the rest of us are in that situation. Now, I'm just using that as an example.
See, Dr. Phil, how you do?
I was just using that as an example.
You know, I have that one on my list as well. Add a funeral leave policy or bereavement policy.
I'm thinking, yeah.
And I can see the pluses and the minuses that you've communicated. What I'd like to suggest is that maybe we not approve it this year, but we go to neighboring counties.
Work on it.
Do your
Richmond,
research.
Stanley, Montgomery, Union, and let's see what they have and what issues they have with it. And they may not have one, I don't know.
I think our personnel person already done that.
So what have we learned?
The school system did not have one, and the way it worked, and it worked very well, we never had a problem. If you did not have enough days of sick leave, which you used for that purpose, then anybody in the system that wished to contribute some of their sick leave days could contribute to you. And it worked perfectly. We never had the least problem.
I don't think Richmond County has a policy.
We had no bereavement policy. In other words, somebody dies and you have to be out 10 days, you only got 8 days sick leave. If you've got a friend who'll give you 2 days of theirs, just subtract 2 from theirs, they had 2 to yours. We never had a problem.
We can get you that information. We have done that work late last year, early last year. So if we have that information, we can bring it back to you. 1 year's change, I don't think that much change in people's policies. So I think the information still be relevant. When we reconvene, potentially, with the 16 to 30 years outlook, we can also give you information in regards to bereavement leave as well.
Excellent.
Okay, you want to meet again this month, right?
Well, it's up to the board. What's the board's
When
pleasure?
you can get us this information, can we connect? How the budget?
Well, right now we're in the middle of budget meetings and we're getting a lot of requests. So we don't have a good idea yet. When do you think we'll have a rough idea? Toward the end of the month? As far as giving you a more working number for the budget, We have our regularly scheduled meeting on the 7th, April, is that correct?
Mhm.
If you'd like to meet again, do you think we can have any information regarding this? No, not for not the big budget thing, but for these small issues?
Cause you would need to know all these small issues to
Yeah.
fix your budget.
Yeah.
Well, we can run that out.
Yeah.
We can run that out, definitely. We're just on, the reason we're a little bit confounded by this, we're on day 3 out of 7 of our department head meetings. So we're just kind of, now we're finished for today, but we're basically getting the better part of a day for 7 days, and this is day 3.
Yeah.
So, but we could, for no more than what we've asked for,
Yeah.
I mean, that's fine.
20th or the 23rd?
And maybe you advise if, you know, if you do that, also find out, let us know how that 5% gonna affect us, what kind of, how much growth we had this year.
Well, now that does matter, given that Walmart has gone away. Carrie can speak a little bit more to this in regards to the percentage of growth, but what we were seeing in the county, year over year, for the last 4 years or so, we've seen growth in sales tax dollars. Sales tax has grown, I think, up to year to date, 6.98%, so 7% growth year to date compared to what we were last year this time.
What total dollars?
110,000.
110,000.
That through 7 months of this year.
All right.
That's growth,
Okay.
$110,000 of growth,
Yes.
year to date. Now, unfortunately, the state of North Carolina does not give us the granular data to tell us Walmart got us this much information, or Food Line gave us this, or little hardware store gave us this much sales tax dollars. So we can't tell you right now, and won't be able to tell you exactly what Walmart's impact meant. But being the biggest retailer in the county, it meant something.
How often do we get that tax money?
We get monthly.
Monthly.
We get a report every 2 months. So the most recent report we received at the end of February was for 2 months prior, correct?
We get the first of March. There's basically a 45-day lag when we get the money. So the report that we so there's a research report that comes from the Association of County Commissioners that we get the first business day of the month. That is for 2 months preceding. So in March we got January's numbers. So that's why I say this is through January. So it's through 7 months of this year. And I know you question, well, we're in March, why do we not know? But this is as soon as today is the day that we get the real report from revenue, which I've been using the association's research report for the better part of 3 years, and it's never varied a penny.
So for the first month that we'll know that Walmart's not here, we'll get that official number from the state in June, because Walmart's leaving in early April. And so that month of April sales, we'll get that information in June, or lack thereof. So it's kind of hard to figure out exactly when we're operating in this cloud of unknown uncertainty. But with that being said, our growth was really, a lot of our growth was coming from sales tax. Property tax, we'll get some information about that, but it's been very minimal. But we have seen a little bit, but it's very minimal. And then trash collections. We've seen some growth in trash collections. But again, those things are not setting the world afire. Those, we see it with our own eyes. Growth, you'll tell what growth is, because people will come tell us, to talk to Larry Newton and say, this is what's happening. We're not having that much chatter. So we're not too different from what we were the year before or the year before that.
Plus roses will help some.
It'll help mitigate, it won't add growth, it will help.
I'm talking about Walmart.
Yeah, it'll help stave off the issue with Walmart.
Right.
Yes, but it's not gonna move growth needle.
That's what I meant, was it will subtract from the loss in
From the loss.
Walmart.
Well, do we get, I thought we got some sales tax money for other counties, because a lot of our residents shop there.
If you're talking about the redistribution of sales tax, that is not included in the number that we just talked about. And in that number, that's what we're distributing between the school system, economic development, and the community college. So that is not included in the growth number. Because we don't keep it, we treat it as a pass-through, so we don't count that.
Yeah, but we
in our
still
growth.
get it, that's what I was at.
Yes, sir, we do, and that number is tracking to be, when we started, it was about 585,000 that we split 3 different ways, and it is, it's on line this year to do about 687,000. Again, through 7 months so far, we're forecasting out that that's 687, but we don't count that number in our growth because we pass it right through. Now, that does bring up a point in that if you want, we cannot use that money for anything other than education and economic development. But it is this board's prerogative as to how you want to allocate that. So this board chose to split it in equal thirds.
That was my question.
But it doesn't have to be.
In the, prior to the 16-17 budget year. So you guys made that call back then. There's the possibility that you want to revisit that split, or that you want to redo how we do it, because we have always done the school system and the community college monthly as we got it. We did not fund economic development that way, even though a third of it was reserved for them. We made them ask, and that would be just like the school system coming and asking for their sales tax proceeds for capital projects. And they came and appeared before the board and asked to be treated like everybody else. And since then, we've done them that way. I don't know if you want to revisit that. That's not our call at staff level, but.
Well, one thing we need to take into consideration here about capital improvements with the school board, and I'm pro-school all the way, but they need to put as much as they possibly can of these sales taxes and so forth into their new building,
And then maybe we should
like
redirect
furniture
some-
or so forth. Excuse me.
redirect some of that money toward that project, because with the sales tax gonna affect what that will be, and how we will have to pay this money back to rebuild a new school. We need to be thinking of how we can pay those dollars back. You wanna come from?
No. That's why we bring it to your attention.
Shouldn't we make that decision in this budget?
I think all changes that we make need to go effective July 1st of the next budget. Because people have planned to receive those dollars throughout the rest of this fiscal year. But if we want to make any change, I think it goes effective July 1st. We can notify individuals that their allocation is changing or will change. That way they can budget appropriately for next year. I think if you already set your budget for this year and all of a sudden we change it 3/4 of the way through, you lose some of the trust that they put into our organization. So I would recommend that if we make changes, we notify them that we plan on making changes, and then make it effective July 1st.
Cause the school gonna need all the money they can get.
That's right.
But this is what, and Dr. Sims, Commissioner Streeter, the entire board, and I am sure enough one for education and my seniors. But this is something we need to really go home and think about and come back at the next. That's one of the things I had wrote down. Here's what happened with, the building with extension, agriculture extension. They did all the research, they did so many, spent money under the assumption that they will build it, and it will waste. I don't want that to happen with the school. And then one day, just being honest now, and then one day we have to tell them we can't do it. With Walmart gone, and I know that was a big part of our money. I received, all of us received it, was it last week or the week before last, that they had spent another $80,000 on some kind of, what were they doing? What was it?
It's the drawdowns that they're doing for preparatory work for the middle school.
Yeah.
If that's what you're talking about, yes, so.
And I wrote on there, we need to stop this money. I don't know if all of you got it, I wrote it on there. we need to stop this money, because, we need, what you gonna spend it for, then the day comes when we have to say, we can't afford it right now.
Well, in conversations with the superintendent, the architect, Morris Berg, and the construction manager at risk, Edifice, will have harder, more concrete numbers coming at the end of the month, supposedly, and that will give us something under the $46 million. But we don't know what that number is, and we've already had a discussion, if it's probably not in the low to mid-30s, it's gonna be a tough push for this county to be able to make that happen.
But what are they planning on? $49 million or the $32 million?
Because that's what it
Right,
went
and
from.
the thing on right now is $46 million.
Some of the school board members claim we can get it for 35 million.
That's what it was at first. That's what they were saying, from 32 to 35. Now it's gone all the way up to 46. And
Well,
we don't.
this is in the last couple of weeks, they told me.
Board members to be here today, but for some reason.
Well, Dr. Truman, let me speak up for him. Dr. Truman has some health issues, and he has to be in Wilmington today, and had no choice whatsoever. Extremely important that he be in Wilmington for his specialists that are in Wilmington.
I think when we meet again, we need them here to make some decisions that we may have to make.
You know, we've been planning for the middle school for about a year now,
Lose money.
and we've invested a lot of money. I think upwards of $1 million is a figure that comes to mind.
855.
Yes. And during that time, this board has not seen or heard a report from the architects. So I don't have a clue as to what specifically they are planning. Now, you sent us an email with some attachments, but having the person stand here and explain exactly what they're planning and why the cost is 42 million or 35 or 47 or whatever,
Yeah.
I think the school board and the project team owes it to this board, because we're responsible for funding this project. We need to see what they're planning.
I wanna see a floor plan.
Yes. And I want to see exactly the
Everything else
configuration.
too.
I mean, are we starting with a smaller building that's expandable over time? Or are we building the whole pie at once?
And how many students we build in this school, I want to know
Well,
that.
see, if we went to that, George, weren't you there?
They, right now, currently, the school that is patterned after is like 800 students,
800,
and Anson County is saying we've got 756 middle school students. There is a floor plan, but you know, like Mr. Gate was saying, the only reason I've seen it is because I'm on that project committee, but we haven't they haven't passed anything out to the whole board, commissioners as a whole. But as it stands right now, until the report comes in that Mr. Monroe's talking about, that price tag is still, and we brought it up more than one time on these project meetings, that 46,800,000, whatever it is too much. And actually, they've been given a percentage that it needs to come down, but as of right now, we have not seen that. And Pat, Kerry, and Mr. Monroe in the back, that the last meeting that we were at, a spreadsheet was prepared and given to everybody present that shows, you know, 15 million that we have, the 5 million that the county's committed, and the total cost of what's left, and what it would take to do that. And actually, at this point, it says a 6.5% tax increase on our current rate. But still, we've not seen any reduction as of yet. But now it may come, like Mr. Monroe said, by the end of this month. I don't know. But basically, I think every school board member that has approached me, I have informed them that it's not affordable at this price. Now, in fact, I just had a conversation with one this morning, and you know, it has to come down. So I guess we'll see what happens.
Well, and also, I'll make one point, thank you for bringing up the spreadsheet, because I forgot about this piece. The state did not pass a budget this year.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
And that was a large piece of our finance. That was at least 25% of what we were gonna fund for that project, for that school. $11.8 million. In fact, we wrote a letter asking how could we get in the first tier distribution for them back in September. Well, they decided not to pass a budget. Without having that $11.8 million, we can't account for only $25 million for this project right now, without a tax rate increase.
Right.
So, it changes things drastically. by-
25 or 20?
25, I'm sorry, I misspoke. Well, 15 is the grant from the school system, 5 is our match. And we discussed with the board to Commissioner Sims' piece about the sales tax dollar allocation. We looked at it, Carrie and I, and the schools have discussed this. Their annual allocation they receive, we said, we're gonna put some of that sales tax dollar away to a tune of $5 million over 15 years. So we were gonna put that into our financial strategy. So that was the 25. But then it falls off the page right there, because we have nothing else.
So, when we meet again, we need the school people here with us.
Agree?
The architect.
And I'd like to have a presentation from the architect.
I agree.
Yeah,
I
the
agree.
architect.
Also with
Yes.
Yeah.
As I've said many times before, the more a building costs, the more money an architect makes.
Absolutely.
Keep that in mind when they make the presentation.
And the more changes they make, or we
Yeah, the
make,
more changes really,
it just adds.
really pushes up the number.
Very definitely.
Good point.
But I would like to suggest that before we approve any additional funding, we have this meeting and this review from the architect, so we know where we are.
We need all that to do a budget.
So, I want to underscore something Mr. Monroe said to you. So, again, our original little rough back of the napkin drawing here, we can't estimate how impactful the state budget not being adopted will be on us. So, for instance, what they've done is they've adopted a biennial budget. So they are operating off the spending authority right now of a budget that was passed essentially 2 years ago, give or take a month. So if they never adopt the budget that's getting ready to end June 30th, then this 11.8 million goes away. Okay? So what's to say, because they haven't been able to adopt the budget, what's to say that this 11.8 million for next year, because they really got to be in a budget in within a month or so, because we're already in. What's to say that we can count on this 11.8 in next year's budget?
What's to say what the effect of the coronavirus is going to be
Well, I
on
mean, that's true, but
economics?
what I'm getting at is this, is that this was part of the budget that hasn't been adopted, okay? So if that budget never gets adopted, and they still have spending authority till June the 30th. Now, granted, what happens June the 30th if they haven't adopted a budget for 21? Do we go to, because the state requires you to have a budget in place to have spending authority. So do we enact essentials where like prison guards and highway patrol and those type of folks are the ones that come to work? And, your human services people don't because we don't have spending authority? Or do they, adopt a budget for next year without addressing schools and capital needs? Because if they do, our ship is completely sunk. Now, granted, it won't just be ours. It's us, the other 99 counties, the community colleges, some of the universities, or whatnot. But that is a real risk. When we look at this, a big part of this, to get in the mid-30s to make the project doable, is dependent upon that. Just like as much as they're dependent on us to put our money in the grant, of which you referenced has spent $855,000 so far. We haven't seen really anything. That state money is super important. And then, and Baron will talk to you about borrowing.
Well, the thing is, there are opportunities to borrow dollars. We sat down with a group, Davenport, just getting ideas, brainstorming, trying to develop some scenarios potentially that can help with the financing of some of these big projects we have coming up. And some of those big projects, if you remember back in February, we went over this little sheet of capital improvement plans. Well, obviously the school's on that one. What we met with Davenport about was to see our debt capacity, to see exactly what we could afford to borrow. And we can borrow a good deal. Anson County is in a very favorable position. So I guess one thing I would like to say, Walmart and all this other stuff sounds bad and doom and gloom. We have a lot of debt capacity. problem, however, with that is paying back on it. If we have a great credit card limit, but don't put any money on it, this type of thing.
Well stated.
So, in that regard, we talked about, if we had to borrow, it would borrow at the lowest possible amount, which would be a GO bond. Putting some of these things on a referendum in November to see whether or not they pass, and if they pass, then the voters have said that they support what the county would need, be it for the middle school, be it for any other project that we have listed here. So just throwing that out as an option. So I think we want to present everything as fairly as possible and not try to color your perception one way or the other. So that GO bond option is out there. It goes to the board, to the citizens in November, and we can borrow down those dollars, which is an indirect tax rate increase.
But if they vote up school bond, they'll be taxing themselves.
It's a tax rate increase, yes, sir. But the voters have spoken.
Yeah.
And I think if we float a bond, if we were to go that route, I think we need to be very specific, not dilute it with a lot of capital projects, specifically the middle school project, and let the citizens vote on that.
If you dilute it, probably will not pass.
I think the chances are very good it will not pass. They don't need a new building out at Parks and Recs. Why are they putting this in here? I mean, we need to be specific for the middle school because it's our #1 capital project. We said that at our last meeting and previous meetings.
What would it take to get that on the November ballot?
We'll be working, actually, we have a meeting set up with, a group next week. We're trying to get it up. We'll find out more information then. We'll have more information for you at the next meeting, hopefully.
Okay, maybe that time was stupid.
Right.
Yeah.
Friday, Monday, Tuesday,
Yeah.
Wednesday, so.
But even
So
though
then
we
we
still
let's
there,
move to the
we're not
third.
talking about a 40.
No, we're not. We still need that review with the architect and the school board.
I would, and again, remember I'm pro-school, but I'm also, I hope, a reasonable business person, because I was born in absolute, total, 101% poverty, and I'm now comfortable, so maybe I had a little business sense. I would like to know where that $800 and some thousand that's already been spent, what we spent that on. We already own the property.
There have been renderings. They'll want the idea that nothing's been done. It's just that it's all in the planning phase. So what they have will be plans, not yet completed. So we'll try to have that for you as soon as possible.
So one thing just to know, just to refresh everybody, is of the 855, it's a 3-to-1. So 75% of that money is from their $15 million grant. 25% is from our $5 million match. So to date, now we haven't dispersed the last $45,000, but to date, our match would be $213,000. So if you remember back when I asked you for a budget amendment to give me the spending authority for the match, for the $5 million, okay? I didn't ask you for $5 million, I asked you for $250,000 because we felt like that was gonna be a circuit breaker in this process of, we're at 855 right now, 213 of which is our money. And we would like to think that the whole 855 is applicable to whatever the final number of the school is. But right now, we don't know that.
We don't know anything.
So we're about to, the next request,
I never seen spend
I
money,
will,
you
I
don't know
will
what's
not be
going.
able to probably pay. And so then you will have, like, again, that's our circuit breaker, is that I only asked for $250,000 of authority, of which they've requested, and we haven't dispersed, but they've requested 213. We have dispersed all but 45,000 of that number. But again, on the next request, like if it goes like it's been going, I will not be able to, and it'll have to come back to you guys, and you have to decide how much further are you willing to go in, and that's going to be reflective of how well you feel with the presentation, with the number, with the GO bond possibly, or whatever. It gives you another opportunity to kind of take a look at where we're at.
But we also need to know the information doctor.
Oh.
two things to look at. If I'm an architect, I want to do as much as I can up front for two reasons. First of all, to make money. And second of all, to make sure I get in deep enough that it's gonna put a bind if you back out. The school board and the school people, management. And I'm not saying they think this way, but if I were there, this is the way I would think. The more I can get involved, and the sooner I can do it, the more likely I am to get to school. But we got to provide the money, and we need to know what's going on.
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly with you, Dr. Sims. Right now, I'm at a loss to tell you the name of the architect that we have employed. I'll raise my hand. I couldn't tell you. If you had asked me,
I don't
what's the
know.
name of the architect? I don't know. And I feel very uneasy with that lack of information.
Do you know Mr. Gates?
Yeah, Morris, was that the engineer firm? It's Morrisburg is the, yeah. They've done work in the county before. And the main thing right now, like everybody's saying, is we hadn't been passed. And, like the presentation they've got, I'm on the project committee and I don't have a copy of it. So we need to get that.
Now, the main thing, we can get school people and the architect to give us complete information, presentation, that's what we need.
Including their project plan. I mean,
That's
when do they
correct.
plan to break ground? How long will the construction take? And when do they plan to open the school?
When that depends on the budget and all.
They have a rough draft. They have a rough draft of that plan. However, Mr. Gardner and I thought it was a bit aggressive, given that we didn't have the financing for that. So
That's what we're talking about.
It's a 16-month build out, and they were looking to open. They were looking actually to, I think, start building right now. I mean, it was that aggressive.
First of the year.
Yeah, and have it open August of 2021. So that the idea was always to open it either in the summer or in the wintertime, coming in after our break.
Sure.
So you can do all the moving then. So August 2021 was the first set time period, and that's when we kind of got a little uneasy about the speed of that. So, but to your point, there's what's next, where we are right now.
There's a lot more cost involved too, and I know from 5 schools. There's a lot more cost involved in a school building than just building itself. You start off with furnishing, you start off with technology, and et cetera, et cetera. It's a lot more there.
The 46 million includes the technology. The outright bill was 39. The outright bill was $39 million, and that's $240 per square foot. And we're looking at 165,000 square feet, roughly.
Sounds about right.
And then there are about $6 million in the furniture and fixtures. I want to call them fixings. I don't know why. The furniture and fixtures are about $6 million, along with the technology. That also includes the design fee.
Right.
That's also includes the design fee, that's $6 million.
Well, now you're talking about the athletic fields. If we get in a huge bind, we're sitting right beside the high school that has all kind of athletic fields.
We
All of
discussed
that, which was supposed to be the advantage of the location, and that was lost between Cabarrus County and on the ride back home. We asked the same, that.
What is lost sometimes can be found.
Yes, sir.
We asked the same exact question, is
All
if
right.
it makes sense to be there.
Water rates.
I've reminded them of that several times. That was the reason, one of the reasons for going out there. We're already on the land, and we wouldn't have to do athletic fields.
Yeah.
Nobody seems to be listening.
Well, the water rates, this one, honestly, we haven't defined this as well.
Gotta get through my list.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
I accepted last.
Okay.
But I do have a list.
yeah,
Sorry.
all right.
All right, that's no problem, okay. I agree with the 5% if we can afford to do it as a market adjustment, not a COLA, because a 5% COLA in North Carolina could be seen as excessive. But I certainly support the 5% as a market adjustment. You know, the 401k contribution, I said this at the last year's meeting, for regular full-time employees, we contribute 3%. Sworn law enforcement officers receive 5%. I'd like to see us close that gap over some period of time. In other words, maybe next year we go 4% for regular employees, and then the next year, or when we can afford it, we go to the full 5% for everybody. So we're all working from the same plane.
But you don't think law enforcement will want theirs up if we do that?
Well, no, I don't think so. And most counties, I say most, many counties have already moved to even 5%
What
for all
will that
employees.
cost? Do anybody have any idea?
We've got a breakdown, going up. So one of the things I don't think we've discussed yet is our Orbit, our local government employee retirement system contribution is already going up 1.2%. Again, that's a county's contribution, so it doesn't affect, if you were to retire today or 5 years from now, you're gonna get, your retirement's based on the same metric. The county putting in 1.2% more of your gross pay does not help you as an individual at all. It's a shore up or a true up that the treasurer has mentioned, has made mandatory. So one of the things that we're already combating coming up into 2021, and we had this in 1920 as well, is a 1.2% increase to our Orbit rate. So when you take that, that's going to cost us countywide $92,264 at, you know, where we're at right now. So if you do a 1%, it would add another $60,000 on top of that number.
That's not a lot of money in the scheme of our budget.
So that is a 1% additional 401k on the non-LEO, non-law enforcement officers.
Right.
So that would bring what are called the LOCGs, the local governments, to 4. The LEOs are still at 5 by state statute with no cost of living or market adjustment, but including the state required Orbit would be that it would be $152,000 total, about $60,000 to get the extra 1% on the 401k. Now again, it starts to move up when you start putting COLAs in there and all. We've got it all modeled if you'd like to look at it, but.
Well, I'd like to recommend a 1% step up in this next budget year.
Well, can we do the I don't want any decisions or motions and things being made in this retreat, because that kind of takes away the purpose of
Sure.
back to the budget process.
Absolutely, and that was not a motion,
Okay.
Mr. Monroe.
Okay.
No. I may have sounded a little aggressive, but it wasn't a motion. I'm passionate about this because I've heard so many employees complain about it over the years. It's like we don't value the 2 of you, the 3 of you, the 4 of you even, as we do sworn law enforcement officers, and I think that's unfair. The other thing that we talked about at our last session last year is to increase the longevity pay plan to a maximum of $2,000. Last time it was increased was 2009, and we increased it from $1,200 to $1,600. And you know, at that point in time, the board was of the opinion that we'll relook it in 10 years, and we're now in the 11th year. So that's another suggestion. Do we have any ideas of what that would cost the county?
We could model it, but we don't at this time. We do have an idea. We do model exactly what the longevity is on a straight percentage basis as it is now. So it's 12468, but it caps at 1,600. So in other words, if you made $40,000 a year, when you got to 4%, you're going to hit your cap. So we do know exactly what the dollar is with no cap and the dollar is with cap. All we got to do is add a column and raise the cap to 2,000. It's not that much work.
Yes, sir. I would like to see those numbers. The next one will not cost us a thing. And Mr. Sykes, we can thank you for this one, and that is the 4th of July holiday. I'm proposing that when July 4th is on a Tuesday or a Thursday, county staff will be given Monday or Friday off as a paid floating holiday. We've said that. We talked about it. And the way that would impact the county, July 4th is on a Tuesday in 2023. So county staff would have Monday, July 3rd off. The following year, 2024, is on a Thursday. So county staff would have Friday off, Friday, July the 5th. And the next time they would have off would be in 2028. When the July 4th is on a Tuesday, they would have Monday off. And then in 2030, when I turn 70, it will be Thursday, July 4th, and floating holiday would be Friday, July 5th. Doesn't cost the county a thing, and I think the consideration, Mr. Sykes, that you started last year would be welcomed and very much appreciated by county staff.
If you don't mind, if we categorize that as a holiday schedule and phrased it just like you said, and
Yes,
not
sir.
call it a floating.
That's fine.
We utilize our birthdays as floating, which means you can take your birthday the week of, prior, and post.
Certainly.
We don't want this, I don't think that was your intent. I think you defined it right in the beginning when you said Tuesday or Thursday, it's Monday or Friday.
Right.
And left it. If we could define it that way.
Yes.
Just a suggestion if the board.
Oh, I think that's
decides
an
to move
excellent
forward.
suggestion. And then the other one is relative to social services, and that is we have the LEAP program that begins December 1st of every year and goes through March 31st or until funds are exhausted. And it's a heavy, heavy work period on existing staff, and the DSS board has discussed this on several occasions, and we'd like to recommend that we hire temporary staff to administer the LEAP program from December 1 until the funds are exhausted. And in this past year, funds were exhausted within 3 to 4 weeks. So it's not very much time, and we were considering paying these people $10 an hour, and we think we get some quality temporary staff with that money.
How many people you talking about?
It would probably be 10 to 15 max.
And what would those people do?
They would process
They wouldn't know
they would process,
They wouldn't know how to put it in the computer with them.
oh, that's part, they would be trained, it wouldn't take long.
So you pay to train them?
Absolutely. Just like we do regular employees, we train them, and then we give them space to work. And it doesn't all have to be at DSS, they could work right in here and process those LEAP applications. You see the long lines coming out of DSS and all the cars everywhere? I mean, I think we can better manage that. Plus, our existing staff can't do their primary jobs because they're all processing these LEAP applications. And there's some risk in doing that, especially with Child Protective Services employees. It wouldn't cost us very much.
That's a very good point. And we've had a budget meeting with Ms. Lewis Jackson, and that was already mentioned. So,
Excellent. And the last one that I have, and maybe not this year, but
They giving out LEAP, money this week too, am I correct?
we received $40,000.
We got an additional,
Yeah.
additional
And they giving
fund.
it out.
and that'll probably last 2 days.
Well,
It won't last.
it's 70 degrees now.
I know, but
Two of the people that, went up there yesterday, they were turning around, said that, they wouldn't let them apply for it, cause they would not use kerosene anymore, but you don't know the temperature of their house. They were denied yesterday.
I don't know the specifics on that, Mr.
Yeah, I was going by there when I leave this and pass her back, cause they may still be burning. Do you still have the heat on at your house? It may be down low, but you got it on, cause the computer's on the answer.
Well,
You still got the heat on at your house, Mr. Street? Yeah, and to tell them, and that's their only source of heat, is kerosene.
well,
Yeah, they should have been allowed to apply.
Mr. Irvin, it took me a while to answer because I don't regulate the heat at my house, my wife does.
We take turns.
Yeah, okay, oh, y'all, okay.
But
That-
not
that
my
was pretty
turn.
slick, wasn't
He
it?
turns it up, I turn it down, and vice versa.
I've never mentioned it, but I thought about it. My grandchildren, the power bill's in my name, which it cost me $550 to $600 a month. You can pay electric bill on.
At your house?
If they're where they live.
Where they live?
You're
Oh,
using
my.
all kind of electric heaters and stuff, and I think
Yes,
go
sir.
to school and leave them on.
I think I'd put a stop to it, even though I had to collect the heaters.
Mr. Gates?
No, one last one. One last one. I noticed in Richmond County, they provide employees only, with free dental insurance coverage. And I don't know if that's something unique to Richmond County, or if it's something we could afford to do.
I asked my insurance person several years ago, since I was growing old with my wife, and I would like to keep my teeth, that I would like a good dental insurance policy. And he said there is no such thing. There is no good dental policy. To get total reimbursement for dental, or to get anything that would be useful, would cost a great deal of money.
Most dental policies are capped at $1,000, maybe
That's right.
$1,250, $1,500 max. But I don't know what.
I was just looking at ours,
The state has one.
It's 1842, 24 times a year, so 442 a person for employee
$442
per year.
per year per person.
Yeah, but what would that pay? It sounds good, but when it comes to actually paying for things,
It
cleaning and a little drilling's probably all.
It actually is tiered, so it does. I wish Katie was in here, but it does your cleanings, it does your annual X-ray, it does like 80% of a filling, does like 80% of a crown. Has got a maximum like 1,000-year payout.
There you go. Now you've hit it.
Can you bring those figures back at the next?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Hardly anybody provides, except these great big corporations, provides free dental.
I know everybody's proud of their teeth and want them. I got rid of mine 25 years ago for $300 and then got 10 cents.
And
I would have never
explain
known
the
it.
insurance plan that the state have, what we are paying.
I got it. I got the state plan. And I can tell you that if I clean my teeth 3 times a year, and if I have one drilling, that's about all it'll cover.
No, that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, and thank all of you for your list on water rates.
Well, this we haven't really gotten a chance to talk a lot about this since this is in regards to, we were talking about our water system. I'm sorry.
That's
I
fine.
get it. I got it. I got it.
Okay.
I
It's
got
small.
it. This is-
Same thing? No, I need to pass this on, you got this here. Thank you.
I got one.
No, it's another one.
Oh, goodness.
Yep.
Make me feel on the page. Denise, you didn't do this, did you? I know you did. I need a magnifying glass to read this.
Well, what we're not gonna do is go into it, maybe when we reconvene, we'll go over this. This is in regards to, the capital improvement plan for the water rates that we did last, in February. You received a 10-year updated CIP that talks about a water rate increase. What we're gonna do is give you a better copy of what you have here with the 8% water rate increase that we talked about. Because, well, again, propose it. Yeah, we're gonna do that. So basically, in short, the $13 goes to $14. The 13, you can't see it?
No.
Don't worry about it. Don't look at it. It's a distraction. Don't worry.
I can see it.
I saw how close you put it up there.
It goes-
You've already told us how young you were just a few minutes ago.
The key rate here is that for the individual that had a $13 a month rent, water rate, will go to $14.04. Is what we're looking at right now as the 8% increase. And we apply that 8% increase to every tier, to every function across, including what we charge to our neighboring county, because now we have Richmond already in a different contract. So we'll give it to you again, and we'll go through it more thoroughly, bigger font, and make sure that we'll have a better conversation. But I just wanted to put that out there in front of you, that we are looking at the water rate increase, and it's going to go toward improving our water system over the next 5 to 10 years.
Make it that size.
Make it okay.
What happened to that talk about a new water, department facility?
We are still in discussion. We're trying to figure out best ways to work around that. The current situation right now is not tenable, but we have some options that we want to explore, and we can bring you more information on that next meeting.
I'm just curious, that's all. I don't need to explore it.
Okay. We're still talking about it. We have a couple ideas.
Speaking of water bills, appreciate the note regarding the 2020 census on last month's statement. Okay? First time I've ever seen that happen. It was also in the town of Waysboro. In fact, town of Waysboro 2020 census kicks off soon. Each person counts to make a difference. Appreciate that.
We're gonna do the same thing too.
Are they really? Good.
Okay, do we need to set a date, or will the next meeting be?
Well, we would like to do March 23rd, it's a Monday, in the morning.
Let's say it have to be in the morning because that agri-civic center thing in the afternoon, so yeah, March 23rd will work.
It works for me.
How about, how early is early?
This time of the year, I can't promise nothing.
I don't have any idea without looking at calendars. If I carry a calendar, it usually lasts a couple hours.
Y'all decide what's best for y'all, and I'll try to make it.
How about 10 o'clock?
10 o'clock would work fine.
That ain't early.
But it's a Monday, okay? Let's
go at 8:30, y'all.
All right, let's 9 o'clock. Can we go at 9 o'clock?
9 o'clock?
And give staff a chance to get some of their immediate items taken care of.
And this meeting's for what purpose?
It's a follow-up with the request, the modeling of the C.S. Smith 16 to 30 years of information, bereavement leave research,
the date?
Morrisburg schools.
And what, will the school people be here at 9 or come in later?
I've not talked to them about it yet, so I don't know. I'll try to get them here at 9 so they can be here and be out as soon as possible. I don't also know if that's spring break or not. I don't know when spring break is, but that could be a consideration.
It's usually around Easter.
It's around Easter.
Yeah, so their break probably won't be until April.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think we'll have it late.
Okay, so we got time.
Okay, anything else?
Just, I don't want to prolong the thing, but going back to Mr. Gates was about the July 4th. That's the only holiday we're looking at, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I was thinking when we originally talked about it, back when Mr. Sykes brought it up, I thought there was another holiday, that Veterans Day, I believe it was, or something that floats around.
The 3 holidays that float.
That's right.
It was Independence Day, Veterans Day, and New Year's Day.
New Year's.
I think we decided we didn't want to change New Year's because of people paying the taxes, so.
Correct. Yeah, and the question was whether or not Veterans Day qualified as such.
Yeah, I'm good with just July the 4th, but I just, clarification. I'm good.
And that's fine. We can put that in the policy. We'll work on that. Also, on the 23rd, dental insurance and state insurance benefits is what you requested information on. When and how to get on the GO bond, in case that is an option we want to explore. Morrisburg and the school education project, that's something we're going to push to have them here for. Bereavement leave research, and then model out C.F. Smith option for years 16 through 30 on a lease option. And then also water rates.
Yep.
So, pretty heavy day, but I think we can do it.
Mr. Monroe, I'll just say it's excellent meeting. Thank you and your staff for the preparation, okay? Very productive.
Thank you. Anything else coming for the board?
Motion that we
Adjourn.
Second.
recess to 23rd.
23rd at 9:00. We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor, let it be known by aye.
I'm good at adjourning meetings.
Okay.